My fork hit the plate, and the sound echoed across the whole dining room. Not because I dropped it, but because my hand stopped working the moment those words left her mouth. She said it so casually, like she was commenting on the weather, like she was saying pass the salt. You know, it's funny. The baby's eyes don't really look like anyone in our family. That was it. That was the sentence. 8 words. And the entire table went quiet. My sister-in-law Lisa looked down at her plate. My brother-in-law Dan picked up his phone. My father-in-law cleared his throat and reached for more bread. And my husband kept eating. It was a Sunday dinner at his parents' house. The kind they do every month. Big roast chicken, mashed potatoes, the good tablecloth. We brought our daughter Mia. She is 7 months old. She was sitting in her little bouncy seat next to my chair, chewing on a teething ring. Completely innocent. Completely unaware that her grandmother was about to drop a grenade on the table. Patricia, that is my mother-in-law's name, had been holding Mia earlier, walking her around the living room, showing her the family photos on the wall, pointing at each one and naming everyone. I thought that was sweet. I thought she was just being a proud grandmother. I did not know she was studying my daughter like she was building a case. The silence after her comment lasted maybe 5 seconds, but it felt like 5 minutes. I looked at my husband. His name is Nathan, and I watched him take a bite of his chicken, chew it, and reach for his glass of water. I thought, he is going to say something. He is going to correct her. He is going to laugh it off or shut it down. He did none of those things. Patricia looked at Mia again, then looked at me, and she said, I mean, she's beautiful, of course, but those eyes are very dark. Dark eyes don't really run in our family. I set my fork down deliberately that time. I made sure it was quiet when it hit the plate. I said, my father has dark eyes, Patricia. She made a little sound. A hum. Like she was considering it. Like my answer was an interesting theory she was not fully convinced by. I suppose. And then she changed the subject to Lisa's new job. And everyone at the table exhaled. And I sat there with a stomach full of rocks. The drive home was 40 minutes. Mia fell asleep in her car seat by the time we hit the highway. I waited until we were out of the neighborhood. Then I turned to Nathan. Are you going to say anything about what just happened? He said, what do you mean? Not as a real question. As a delay. I said, your mother just implied that our daughter might not be yours. At the dinner table. In front of your whole family. And you kept eating. He was quiet for a second. Then, she didn't say that. I said, she absolutely said that, Nathan. She said the baby's eyes don't match anyone in your family. What else was she saying? He said, she was just making an observation. She's old. She says things without thinking. I said she said it twice. He didn't answer that. We put Mia to bed when we got home. I stood in her doorway for a long time, just watching her sleep. She has my nose. She has Nathan's ears. She has my dad's dark brown eyes. Eyes that go back 3 generations on my side. I know exactly where those eyes came from. I know every single thing about how this baby was made and carried and born. I was there for every second of it. And I still had to stand there and fight the urge to cry in my own daughter's bedroom because of what a woman said over mashed potatoes. Nathan came in eventually, stood behind me, put his hand on my shoulder. He said, she didn't mean it the way you're taking it. I said, how did she mean it then, Nathan? Explain it to me in a way that makes it okay. He didn't have an answer. He just kept his hand on my shoulder, which I used to think was comforting. But that night it felt like weight. I moved away from him. I sat on our bed. And I said, you should have said something at the table. He said, and start a whole thing at dinner? In front of everyone. I said, yes. That is exactly what you should have done. Your mother just questioned whether you're Mia's father, and you sat there like it was nothing. He said, I don't think that's what she was saying. And I looked at him. I really looked at him. For a long time. And I said, do you? That word hung between us. Do you? 2 words. But what they really meant was, do you think your mother is right? Do you have doubts, Nathan? Is that why you didn't defend me? He said, that's not what I said. I said, you didn't say anything. That's the problem. He sat down on his side of the bed, took off his watch, set it on the nightstand. Like we were just having a normal night. He said, I'll talk to her. I said, when? He said, I don't know. This week. I said, you should have talked to her tonight, Nathan. Right there. In front of everyone who heard her say it. He turned off the light on his side. And I sat in the dark for a long time. The next morning he left for work early, before Mia was even awake. He left a coffee for me on the counter, which he always does. And I stood there looking at it, thinking about how a cup of coffee does not fix what happened last night. It does not fix the fact that his mother insinuated, at a family dinner, that my baby is not his. And he looked the other way. I called my best friend Renee. She picked up on the second ring. I told her everything. She was quiet for a moment, and then she said, "Has Patricia ever done anything like this before?" And that question sat in my chest like a stone. Because the answer was yes. Not this exact thing, but things adjacent to this. Patricia had made a comment when we got engaged about how young I was, about how she hoped Nathan wasn't rushing into things. She had made a comment at our wedding rehearsal dinner about my family not being as big as theirs. She had made a comment when I was pregnant about how the baby better have Nathan's athletic build because the women in my family tend to be small, and she said it like small was a problem. Every single time, Nathan had said she didn't mean it the way I was taking it. Every single time, I had let it go. This time was different. Renee said, "Is there any part of you that thinks he agrees with her?" I did not answer right away. And Renee, being Renee, let the silence do the work. Here is the truth I have been sitting with all week. Nathan has been quiet. Not angry quiet. Not sad quiet. Just distant. He comes home from work. He plays with Mia. He eats dinner with me. He goes to bed. But there is something behind his eyes that I cannot name. Something that was not there before Sunday. On Wednesday night, he was holding Mia after her bath, wrapping her in her little towel with the duck hood, and I watched him look at her face. Really look at it. And I could not tell if he was looking at her with love, or if he was looking at her with a question. And that might be the worst feeling I have ever had in my life. Thursday, he came home and said he had talked to his mom. I asked what she said. She said she was just making a casual comment about genetics. She didn't realize it came across wrong. She's sorry. I asked, "Did you tell her what she actually implied?" He said, "I told her it upset you." I said, "It didn't just upset me, Nathan. It was an accusation." She sat at that table and basically called me a liar. Called me a cheater. In front of your entire family. He said, "You're overreacting." Those 2 words. You're overreacting. I felt something snap inside me. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just quiet and final. I said, "Do you want a paternity test, Nathan?" He looked at me. I said it again, "Do you want one?" Because if that is what is sitting in the back of your head, if your mother put doubt in there and you can't shake it, then say so. And we will get one. And then we will deal with what that means for us. He said, "I don't need a paternity test." I said, "That's not what I asked." He went very still. And then he said, "She just made me think about it." I couldn't help it. Her eyes don't look like mine. There it was. Right there in my kitchen. Between the dinner dishes and the baby bottles on the counter. My husband just told me that his mother's comment had planted a seed in him. And the seed had grown. And he had spent all week looking at our daughter. Wondering. I did not yell. I did not cry. I picked up my phone, opened Google, and searched for at-home paternity tests. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Ordering a test. Because you need this. And I will not live in a house where my husband looks at our daughter and wonders." The test arrived in 2 days. We did it that same afternoon. Mia was napping. Nathan and I stood in the bathroom together, neither of us speaking. We swabbed her cheek when she woke up. She laughed and grabbed at the little stick, because to her everything was a game. Because she is 7 months old and her world is still safe. The results came back in 5 business days. Nathan is Mia's father. 99.9998%. He cried. He actually cried. Standing at the kitchen counter with his phone in his hand. He said, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should never have let her get in my head." I watched him cry, and I felt something very complicated. I felt relief, not because I needed the test to know the truth, but because it was done. It was over. And I also felt something that I am still sitting with. Something that has not gone away. I felt grief. Not for the test. Not even for what his mother said. But for the version of my marriage I had before Sunday dinner. The version where I believed my husband would always stand between me and a threat, even if that threat came from his own family. He hugged me. I let him. He said he was going to call his mother. Tell her what she had done. That we had actually had to take a paternity test because of a dinner table comment. That it was unacceptable. That she owed me a real apology. He made that call. I was in the other room. I could hear his voice get tight. I could hear him say, "No, Mom. You don't understand what you did." And then, "I know you didn't mean it that way. But that doesn't matter." He was on the phone for 20 minutes. He came back into the kitchen. He said, "She's going to call you." Patricia called that evening. She said, "I am so sorry, sweetheart. I had no idea my words would be taken that way. I would never imply anything like that. I love you and I love that baby. I said, thank you, Patricia. She said, are we okay? I said, we will be, which was the most honest thing I could say, because we were not okay yet, and I did not know how long it would take to get there. That night after Mia was down, Nathan and I sat on the couch together, closer than we had been all week. He said, I need you to know that I am ashamed. I let my mother's words get inside something that she had no business touching. I said, I know. He said, I should have shut it down at the table. Right when she said it, I should have said, Mom, that's enough. And I didn't. And I have to live with that. I said, yes, you do. He nodded. He did not try to soften it. And that was the right thing to do. We sat there for a long time, not fixing anything, just sitting with the weight of the week. Today is 2 weeks after that Sunday dinner. Nathan and I are working through it. We are talking more than we were before, about hard things, about boundaries with his mother, about what it means to choose your partner first. Patricia has not been over since. We have not set a new date for the next dinner. I don't know how we navigate monthly dinners with a woman who said what she said, whether she meant it or not. Whether I can sit across from her at that same table, with Mia in her bouncy seat, and feel safe. I don't know yet. What I know is this: my daughter's eyes are dark brown. They look like my father's eyes. They are going to be beautiful. And nobody at any dinner table is ever going to make me explain them again. The hardest part of this is not what Patricia said. The hardest part is what it revealed about my husband. That when pushed, his first instinct was not to protect me. It was to protect the peace. And I am still deciding what to do with that. How much it changes things. Whether it changes them permanently. Mia doesn't know any of this. She is still chewing on her teething ring. Still laughing at the duck on her towel. Still completely safe in the belief that her world is good. I am going to keep it that way for as long as I can. When a partner stays silent while their family insults you, even if they apologize later, is the silence itself a betrayal that changes the marriage? And can you truly forgive someone who let doubt live in their heart, even for just 1 week? Drop your thoughts below.